Hi, Mark Nicholls here with another video about information security. This week we're going to be talking about multi-factor authentication and why you need to have it switched on. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a drink and let's get started. So what is multi-factor authentication? This is an extra layer of security that you can add to your online accounts and services to protect them further in the case that where your username and password are compromised by a criminal. Having multi-factor authentication switched on will hopefully prevent that criminal from gaining access to your account. But please do remember, if you feel that your username and account has been compromised, you do need to change that password, even if you have multi-factor authentication enabled, because it only becomes multi-factor if all the variables remain unknown and not compromised by criminals. So how does it work? For most services and most accounts, you'll find you have two options. Typically you can have a text message sent to your phone with a code, or you can use an app that has either rolling codes with it or a prove or deny mechanism. So when it detects that you're trying to log in from somewhere that's unknown, it will send a prompt to your phone saying, do you recognize this login for the various services, and ask you to approve or deny the login. Now I can hear some of you shouting at the video saying that text message is vulnerable to something known as SIM card swap fraud. Yes, I am aware of this, but I would advocate that any form of two-factor authentication is better than not having two-factor authentication enabled on the service. For those who do not know what SIM card fraud swap is, or SIM card swap fraud, it's a bit of a mouthful to begin with. It's where a criminal will phone up your mobile phone service provider and try and get through the security questions, which they do a number of times, and then they will ask for your mobile phone number to be transferred to a SIM that is in their phone. What this means for text message two-factor authentication is that when they try and log into your account, assuming they know your username and password, that second factor authentication, which is a code sent to your mobile phone, will now go to their mobile phone because they've effectively stolen your telephone number and put it onto their mobile. You can phone up your own mobile phone provider and talk to them to see if there's any extra security they can put in place to prevent this from happening, because of course this is quite a big problem, certainly with now a number of high street banks confirming transactions via text message. So typically if they don't recognize a transaction you're doing, they will send you a text message and say, did you spend this amount of money with this provider? Can you confirm yes or no? So where we're talking things like that, I would strongly advise that you do talk to your mobile phone provider and see if there's any security they can add to your account. Now in the next part of the video I am going to show you where you would find the two-factor authentication settings for Facebook and eBay and Amazon, because these are probably some of the most common services that people use at home. But I just would like to say that if you use a web-based email service, something like Hotmail or Google Mail, you need to go and switch on two-factor authentication. Why is it so important to protect your email account? Because all your other services that you use will be linked to your email, and typically when you say I've forgotten my password, that service will email your email address and with a password reset link. Once you have that link, you can then reset the password. So of course criminals are going to be eager to get control of your email account. So it's vitally important that you turn on multi-factor authentication for your Google Mail and your Hotmail. And you can find by searching for your mail provider and words like multi-factor authentication or two-step verification, they will have how-to guides on how you can do this. Unfortunately, I don't have time to list all the different email providers and how to turn on two-factor for them. But of course, please do feel free to drop a comment and I'll happily provide some tuition if you need it. So let's move on and look at some of these services and how to switch on multi-factor authentication. So I want to start with Facebook, a very common social network that a lot of people do use. It's been very common recently for criminals to try to gain hold of your Facebook account to mount type of sort of confidence fraud scams where they like to message your contacts, pretend to be you, typically say you're stuck somewhere abroad and you need some money transferred, you really need help, you've had your phone stolen, so they can't ring you to check on you. And it's these types of scams that are commonly being carried out on social networks. So yes, it is one of the areas that I would strongly urge you to protect with two-factor authentication. When you log into Facebook on a desktop, the top right hand corner you've got a down arrow here. Under settings and privacy you'll find a tab for security and then two-factor authentication. It will prompt you for your password once you get to this point, but then you've got the settings here to turn it on. For my account, you can see I've actually got text message and an authentication app switched on for this. For those of you who are not familiar with an authentication app, I will show you an example of Microsoft's one on my phone here. As you can see, it's got a rolling code and it will also send me prompts approving or denying logins to various different services that I have protected using that authentication app. Google also do an authentication app as well. These are all freely available for both iPhone and Android based phones. Now moving on to Amazon, you will find the settings under your account and then there'll be a login and security box and you will find two-step verification. This is what they call it. Once again, you have the option of text message, but Amazon do also support authentication type apps, which I previously showed you. As I've said previously, it is always better to use the app. However, I do appreciate some of you may not have a smartphone, so are limited to using text message. This is still better than not having it switched on at all, but I strongly suggest you do talk to your mobile phone provider to ask is there any extra security that they can add to your account to mitigate the risk of SIM card swap fraud. And then finally, eBay. You'll find this under My eBay account, sign in and security, two-step verification. They use text message, but they use the eBay app as well, so they don't use a separate authentication app. They will ask you to have the eBay app installed on your phone, so if someone tries to log into your eBay account elsewhere, you will get a prompt on your phone asking you to approve or deny, or do you recognise this login attempt. So a slightly different way of authenticating with eBay. I do hope you found this video useful and helpful, and I hope you're now all going off to switch on multi-factor authentication on your various apps and services. As I said, probably the one that you need to start with is your email service, and if you do get stuck, please do drop me a comment and I'll happily provide you a tutorial. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe.